As home to the largest concentration of War of 1812 sites anywhere in this country, Niagara Parks has a unique role and duty to play in honoring and preserving sites such as the Chippawa battlefield so that they remain protected for future generations. In 1895, the historic stewardship mandate of the Niagara Parks Commission came into being when the NPC agreed to maintain the nationally significant lands of Queenston Heights. 100 years later, in 1995, at the request of this community, Niagara Parks again became actively involved, this time in efforts to preserve and protect the Chippawa battlefield site and its adjoining properties from future suburban development. Overall, Niagara Parks would go on to acquire more than 121 hectares of land, ensuring that this site would remain in public hands as a testament to the important contributions made by the residents, soldiers, and warriors of this region in the development of our country. The lands of Chippawa battlefield have remained virtually unchanged from that fateful day back in 1814, when over 5,000 British, Canadian, American, and Aboriginal warriors were engaged in an intense day-long battle that would result in the loss of more than 200 lives. Today, the Chippawa Battlefield Park is considered one of the most pristine battlefield sites east of the Mississippi River, and Niagara Parks takes great pride in managing this important heritage site and in helping Canadians and international visitors better understand the rich history and the contributions that were made right here 2 centuries ago. Some of Canada's most important and significant moments were enacted, fought, and planned within these lands, now protected by the Niagara Parks. And you have our assurance that we remain committed to preserving and enhancing these areas of national importance to all of us as a nation.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to bring greetings from Rob Nicholson, your Member of Parliament, and the Government of Canada on this historic day. It is wonderful to see so many of you here today for this important historical event. I would like to thank the Niagara Parks Commission, the 1812 Legacy Council, and the Battle of Chippawa Committee for hosting us here today. Family and friends of Niagara, we are here to watch and listen to the story of an epic battle that unfolded on this very place 200 years ago. Each piece of Canada's history has a story to tell, and each story offers Canadians a unique way to connect to this shared past. Canadians from diverse backgrounds and regions came together to fight this battle. And one thing for certain, no one contributed more than the people of Niagara. Our forefathers faced a fiery conflict with no certainty of outcome and remained united in bravery and resolve. Your presence here today honors the sacrifice, and it is a testament to the perseverance of our country. The heroic efforts helped build the country we know today, an independent and free Canada. On behalf of Mr. Nicholson and the Government of Canada, I hope you enjoy this afternoon as we take the festivities of yet another successful event commemorating the bicentennial of the War of 1812. Thank you once again for being here today.
I'd like to welcome our distinguished guests here today, local figures from here in Niagara, our neighbors from across the border, and representatives from 6 nations. Today we're here to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Chippawa. By the time the Americans and the British and Canadian armies met on this field, they had been at war for nearly 2 years. On this field, people separated by only a narrow river, who had been neighbors a few short years before, went to battle once again. On the same field, First Nation warriors from both sides of the river engaged in combat as well. It was not the first time in a long line of very bloody battles, and it will be followed by a number of extremely vicious battles that would come before peace was made. For a number of years, the momentum of stand on the field today was a unique one. It's important because it pays tribute to the British, the Canadian, the American, and First Nations forces who fought on this battlefield 200 years ago. The monument helps us to remember that people from all walks of life fell on this field where we stand today. I need a binder. It's the first thing I'll learn. Today, we're here to commemorate their sacrifices. I'd like to thank the reenactors here today for taking the time out of their busy lives to commit to make sure the memory of the men and the women who were present in 1814 is not lost. I'd like to encourage families here today to enjoy the reenactment, to enjoy the festivities, and to check out the historic shops. I'd also like to encourage those here today to remember why we are here. It's important to remember the British, the American, the Canadian soldiers, and First Nation allies who fought for what they believed in. Today, we are not only commemorating the 200th anniversary of this battle, but also 200 years of peace between Canada and the United States. And that has resulted in the longest undefended border in the world. So take the time today to remember why we are here, and also to enjoy yourselves. Thank our reenactors for the work they do to keep our history alive, enjoy the battle, and I'd also like to acknowledge the RMC cadets that are here today. Please stand and give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for having me.
That means I'm thankful that you're all well and at peace. That's the way that we greet each other, and we greeted your ancestors when we first met them. Today is a difficult day for me and for the Six Nations people of the Grand River Territory because of what happened here 200 years ago. While it was a great victory for the Senecas and the other Six Nations from Buffalo Creek, it was a very dark day for the Mohawks and others that were allied with them from Grand River because of the battle that took place here. Despite the warnings of Red Jacket and other Seneca leaders prior to the War of 1812, that if we engaged in this battle and in this war, this dark day would come, for a lot of reasons, a lot of our young warriors decided to come to this place where they fiercely fought against their cousins from across the river. And it nearly toppled what we call this great tree of peace. It's a tall pine tree. Almost brought an end to this confederated government that had kept us strong and united for 1,000 years. Here at this battlefield, nearly 25% of the total force of warriors from Grand River fell here, didn't return home. And that their blood still stains here, this part of our Mother Earth, and it left a wound that's not really completely healed among our people. But their deaths at the hands of their relatives were quite horrific, and the sight of the bodies laying on the ground, it shook even the most battle-hardened warriors. And they began to question what was the real price we were paying to be involved in this war. So Red Jacket proposed a truce, and after a 3-day meeting with our leaders at Grand River, they decided to a mutual withdrawal. While some of the warriors continued to fight on both sides throughout the duration of the war, our involvement in the War of 1812 came to a virtual end after this battle because every family was suffering, and we wanted the men to return home to protect our families, rebuild the life we were fighting for. So it's a deep sense of sadness that I acknowledge those who did not make it home from this battlefield. At the same time, I ask that their souls that are still lingering here rest in peace, knowing that their sacrifice led to the eventual reunification of the Haudenosaunee people, and that my ancestors replanted this tree of peace at Burlington Heights and at Fort George in 1815. I hope that all those that fell here can get some sense of joy out of the fact that the Haudenosaunee, the people of the Longhouse, also known as the Six Nations, we still continue to exist as one people today, and that we still hold on to some of the land that they fought to protect back then. But it's also my heartfelt hope that our allies during the war will live up to the commitments they made to our ancestors. Many of the allies also felt here, so we've given our life for a cause. Part of that cause was what we consider the Covenant Chain of Peace, the most ancient of treaties between our people that goes back to 1667, and that somehow, together, we can make that ideal as a great chain come alive for many generations to come. So on behalf of the men and women and children and the veterans of Six Nations community, I offer thanks for all of you for being here and for listening to my words today. Doneto, which means I'm all done.
Good afternoon and welcome to this wonderful event. And for many of us, we come every year, July the 5th, because this battle was the start of some very serious, tough battles in 1814. This was the first time that our U.S. friends now came over and fought and won a battle on this site. And I don't want to pass up the opportunity to thank the Parks Commission, who have protected those fields, that field where the battle actually took place, and there has been no building on it, no construction, no work since that battle. And I think it's very important in all of our histories. And we talk about the 200 years of peace, and that's fabulous, and I hope we have 200 more years of peace. But today is very special. This was a huge battle, and I'm sure one of the speakers will mention that the American forces came over in gray coats, and to this day, West Point wears gray to celebrate and commemorate the Battle of Chippawa. Huge history for both our sides, and I also want to mention that today we have over 800 reenactors, and that's bigger than we even had at Queenston Heights, which was another big battle. And I want you to take the time, all of those who have come to visit and view the battle, but also spend some time and get to meet those that really are incredible when they prepare for really reenacting very important events. So today is the day of thank yous to you for coming out, to the Parks Commission for making sure that we're able to come here every year, and to the reenactors that make this so special. And Rick Hill, I just love, I've got to get that term when I'm done. That term I've got to remember. And thank you to RMC for showing up today, making it such a class. I'm the only one with bling here today, but except you. My last comment is, it's so important that we learn about our history, we enjoy our history. We have had that 200 years of peace, and the more we know about it, the more we will benefit. And our friends on the U.S. side, they've been friends for a long time. Many of us have families on both sides, and certainly we work together very closely all the time. So thank you for being here, and enjoy your afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be here today on behalf of Mayor Diodati and my fellow members of City Council to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Chippawa. I just wanted to start by recognizing Councillor Shirley Fisher, who I see out there. Councillor, thank you for coming. And I'd like to start as well by thanking Mayor Deister for being here today. I think as many people know, disagreements do happen. Two sides come together in battle, and there always seems to be one winner. But sometimes when there's a winner, there's resentment. And Mayor Deister, I think that you being here today acknowledges the fact that there is no resentment between the two sides, Canada and the U.S., and that we truly are friends. So I thank you for being here today, Mayor. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge Mr. Hill from Six Nations for being here. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go to a War of 1812 dinner where I got a little history lesson myself, and I always knew that the warriors from Six Nations played an important part in the War of 1812, but I didn't know, I guess, the struggle that they had in terms of the decision that was made to actually join forces with us and come to battle. And I think part of the decision was difficult because they made the decision to fight amongst family members and clan members from the state side. And also the decision generally in Six Nations culture was left to the clan mothers. And in this particular situation, it was the warriors that made the decision. So Mr. Hill, I think that you being here today acknowledges the the importance that the warriors played in this particular battle and in the War of 1812. And I hope that in the future there's more stories that are told of the Six Nations involvement and that more recognition is brought to you. So thank you for being here today. And lastly, I'd like to thank the 800 volunteers that are here for the reenactment. At the same dinner that I was at, I was sitting with Jim Hill from the Niagara Parks Commission, and when Jim told me that there was over 800 reenactors, I was absolutely astounded. I think it brings a new level of magnitude to the reenactment, and I actually look forward to it. So on behalf of Mayor Diodati and my fellow members of City Council, I wish everyone the best today, and I look forward to the reenactment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to have the opportunity to speak to you for a moment here today, although I kind of feel like the Joker at a Batman convention or something, same thing up here. So please don't blame the Deister family for any atrocities that might have taken place here during the War of 1812, because my great-grandfather didn't come across the pond from south of London, England, until 1912. And when he did, he didn't go to the United States. He went to St. David's and started a family farm. My grandfather came over during the Great Depression. Right? I live on a street called Orchard Park Way in downtown Niagara Falls. I'm the third house from Whirlpool Street, which means every morning when I go to get my paper, if I look to the right, I see the country of Canada from my front porch. So one of my favorite books about the War of 1812 is by a scholar, Alan Taylor. The title of his book is The Civil War of 1812, and I think sometimes that's the best way to look at this war. It was, in effect, a war between cousins, right? People who shared the same language, the same history, the same tradition, the same customs, and sometimes maybe that just makes it worse, right? To fight with your cousins and your brothers, right? But the legacy of the war, 200 years now in the future, is a very, very positive one. No two countries in the history of the world, I think, have had a stronger relationship than the United States and Canada have had in the 200 years since this war concluded. And I hope that our relationship will be a model for other states that find themselves in conflict today, that at the enmity of war can sometimes be the introduction to a long era of peace. One of the things that I would ask everyone who is here today to do going forward, let us be certain that that friendship between the United States and Canada is never taken for granted, right? Because it took sacrifice on battlefields historically, and then the efforts of diplomats of many, many years to build that strong relationship. Let each of us go from the ceremony here today as an ambassador for the next 200 years of U.S.-Canada peace and partnership. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Canada. Rick Nyaweskeno. And God save the Queen. There, I said it.